Hello, we're in March 2024. The line, Bob called in 2 days ago and spoke to Jimmy. He's a Muslim calling from the UK. He actually called in again 2 days later to speak to Forrest, Valkai. So we're going to listen to what he's got to say. It's quite a long call. So this review is going to last maybe 15 minutes. I'll try and pick out the best bits. Let's get going. He's going to ask the host a question.
Do atheists have evidences of everything they accept or believe?
Okay. So just to be sure what we're talking about, when you say everything we accept and believe, are you saying that in like the phrase of like an apologist who is like, how do you know every single thing? And like, how do you know you're not a brain in a vat? And how do you know that you're not in a simulation? And how do you...
It's a shame that Forrest is trying to second guess him. I wish he'd just answered the question.
know you're not going to fall through the chair you're sitting on, and how do you know the sun is going to come up tomorrow without faith and all that? Or are you actually just asking about like scientific inquiry? So what do you mean?
All right, I'm gonna clarify it for you. So
Sure.
basically, my question is because atheists always say like because they haven't seen God. By the way, I'm a Muslim. By the way, I just want you to know that.
I'm not. Okay.
I'd just like to say that it's not true that atheists generally say because they haven't seen God, that means that they don't believe in God. There are many things that we can't see that we've got evidence of, but that we do believe in. For example, radio waves.
So go on. What were you saying? You were clarifying.
You chased him off, Forrest.
Bob, are you there?
Hello.
Oh, he's
Hey,
there.
there you are. All right.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that.
So you were
Hello.
clarifying. You said that because atheists say that we've never seen God or something.
Yeah, that means you won't believe in it. So I've got a question for you. How do you know your date of birth? It's your date of birth.
Okay. So yeah, so it is exactly what we were talking about. Yeah, so
that is such an easy one. He could have come up with something a bit more challenging.
I know because of
I mean, for example, he could have said, how do you know that the laws of gravity, or how do you know that the laws of gravity are actually accurate? How do you know that the calculation of all the forces is true as scientists claim that it is? That would be a bit more sort of challenging.
The documentation of it, and because for a little while, I knew the person who was there when it happened. And so I had some reliable sources to go off of. And also it's not exactly consequential enough for me to really...
Yeah, my answer to that, by the way, would be that I don't have 100% certainty that my date of birth is accurate and true, but because of the documentary evidence I've got, such as birth certificate, my mother's memory, my father, etc., entries in diaries, this kind of thing, I'm fairly confident that my date of birth is actually correct. To say 90% confident, I'm not 100% confident, but the main thing is I've got evidence which supports my date of birth as being correct.
Really super look into. I don't really remember being born. I don't even know if I was around for it, to be honest with you. I don't know if it even happened. But
the other thing that needs to be pointed out is that one's date of birth is quite a mundane kind of fact. It doesn't appeal to anything supernatural, whereas belief in gods and miracles does. And that's why the burden of proof, the quality of evidence to support that is going to be so much higher than, for example, something as mundane as when was your date of birth.
But like, as far as I can tell, July 22nd, 1992, somebody shit me out. And that's what the court seems to think. So that's what I've got.
That wasn't really a good way to characterize your birth now, was it, Forrest?
In addition to that, like,
I know
Forrest is here, so like he has evidence of his own birth.
I know I was born, because I'm here right now. I'm pretty sure I know the date and time because of the legal documentation of the event.
Yeah, I always think that when a theist poses this question, the correct question should be, for example, not how do you know when your date of birth was. What it should be is a question about existence. How do you know that zebras exist? That's what the question should be. Or how do you know elephants exist? Or how do you know this creature or that? How do you know the anglerfish exists? Something which is sitting right at the bottom of the sea. That should be the question. Because it's directly analogous to how do you know that a God exists? That would be a better question.
Yeah, but that doesn't, because like, how do you know that's for sure for a fact? That doesn't prove the fact that's a fact, is it? You know, it doesn't prove though.
No, it doesn't prove it to 100% degree of certainty. No, it doesn't. But one can have a very high level of confidence in one's date of birth based on that documentary evidence.
Because
Sure,
we know that they make mistakes. No, it doesn't. I'm not.
Yeah, of course, people can make mistakes. So what you look for is evidence which corroborates your date of birth. So the hospital has got a logbook. I've actually seen my own records going back to 1964. Oddly enough, my mother sent them to me. I don't know why she dug into it, but she managed to find the old hospital records, and they've got a logbook saying my mother went into labor on a particular day, and describing some complications the next day, and then the following day, my date of birth, she actually gave birth. And then to corroborate that, there's my birth certificate. And then there's the testimony of my mother and father. My father was at work. He said I was born. Sorry, my father had a day off, only a day off of the week, Sunday. And he said I was born the next day. I was born on a Monday. And, you know, it all seems to corroborate and reduce to a very, very low level of probability that there was any kind of mistake involved in that. So I've got a very high level of confidence that my birth date was indeed, as I believe that it is, and that I've been informed that it is on my birth certificate.
I'm here to confront you or anything. I'm here just to make
it's reasonable to expect that it's accurate. There, of course, people do make mistakes, but again, the person who gave birth to me seems to think that the documents were accurate.
It's funny how he's got this really high threshold of epistemological certainty about something as mundane as a date of birth. Yeah, something as commonplace and ordinary and inconsequential, more or less, as somebody's date of birth. And yet when it comes to belief in an all-powerful God, something that if it doesn't exist, religion is one big waste of time, he lowers the bar to such a level that he's prepared to accept it just because an old book says that it's true.
So the doctor's in the room, and the documentation of what happened in the room, and the person who is in the room giving birth to me all agree on one thing, and so I'm going with that.
Okay, now that as a Muslim, I accept that. Okay, but why is it that the atheists don't accept, like for instance, the Islamic view that we also accept testimony?
Now, come on, say that it's because of the type of claim, please, Forrest, say it.
Because there's really lackluster, shitty testimony about things that...
No. That's not the correct answer. It doesn't matter what kind of testimony there is, either now or thousands of years ago, that there's an almighty God. No amount of testimony is ever going to convince me that there's an almighty God, an all-powerful God. It's going to have to be something more convincing than that. Because of the fact that we know that people can lie, we know that people can embellish, we know that people can be mistaken. It's got to be something which is objectively actually verifiable, something that we can all agree on and analyze and say, yes, there's the evidence, and yes, it's all been peer reviewed and properly analyzed, and yes, a God does exist. No, so it's not about that it's shitty testimony. Virtually all testimony is shitty when it comes to using it as evidence to support the existence of a God. I wouldn't accept any testimony for that. It would have to be something far more concrete and convincing.
Didn't happen. And so, like, for example, if I pick up a history book and it talks about George
Yeah.
Washington as the first president. Neither I nor anybody else I know was there to see it. And of course, all the documentation we have could be mistakes, but there's sufficient levels of historicity. So, like, all this documentation, all pointing in the same direction. We have letters from the guy, we have signatures from the guy, we have, of several different artists all painting the same.
Okay, that's it, Forrest. Good. Now he's talking about evidence that we've got for a historical figure's existence. This is the kind of, this is good.
Dude, we have, of artifacts from the dude, we have the guy's teeth. Like, we have all these things that are still pointing in the same direction. So I'm okay, yeah, then maybe that happened. But if at any point I picked up a history book and it said George Washington flew to heaven on a winged horse or split the moon in half, as the Quran says Muhammad did, I would be a lot more skeptical to say.
Okay, good. Now he's contrasting between different types of claims. I like this. He's made a good point. Okay, let's hear Bob's response.
Right. I was about to give you exactly a similar answer to what we Muslims believe in, because we also have people who testified to the Prophet Muhammad, whom peace be with, splitting the moon and doing a lot of his miracles. And of course,
well, it's not similar to what Forrest just said, because Forrest was saying that he would be very skeptical about those claims and indeed about the book if he saw those claims, those fantastic claims in the book. And Bob has come back and said, oh, I was going to say the same as you. We've got somebody who testified to the splitting of the moon, to Muhammad, etc. And therefore, based on that testimony, we trust it. No, that's not what Forrest was saying. He was contrasting between different types of claims, and it's gone over Bob's head. He's completely missed the point.
of course, we have the Quran, which is written from, which is memorized by him and his companions, who passed it on to generations and generations. So we also have testimony as well about these things.
It doesn't matter that it was memorized and that it was passed from generation to generation. It doesn't matter that it was testimony, because we can't be sure to any high level of confidence that any of these things really happened and that they weren't just made up.
Right.
So
and,
you are
and
actually,
as we've all known from playing the telephone game, eyewitness testimony being passed down from generation to generations is always accurate. What about Satya Sai Baba?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, he made a sort of ironic comment there, and I think that probably flew over his head as well. He said, sort of sarcastically, well, of course, Chinese whispers always ends up the message is exactly the same as when it started off. Okay, so Sai Baba, let's hear what he's got to say about Sai Baba.
Satya Sai Baba died in just 2000. He died in 2011. So he was around during our time, contemporaneous with us. He lived in India. And he, by millions of followers who say that they saw him raise people from the dead, walk on water, heal.
Yeah, I met a couple of women quite a long time ago. They had pictures of Sai Baba in their house, and I was into a bit of woo in those days. And they were talking about Sai Baba, and they were saying, oh, he did such amazing things. You just wouldn't believe it. I couldn't even tell you about them. You wouldn't believe it. No, I don't think I would believe it. And I'm glad they didn't tell me what kind of things that he supposedly did.
The sick, produce magical objects from nothing, produce rings and things. Why don't you believe in him when you have all these eyewitness testimonies from today rather than 2,000 years ago?
Because I did not make an agreement with the person to testify that, because I wasn't there.
Who did you make an agreement with who did you make an agreement with that wrote the Quran that told you that what happened there is real?
The Quran says in Surah 7, 172, we made an agreement with God, our souls, to come to this world, and we tested.
Okay, that's a claim. Who we? What? Everybody, every single human being. We made an agreement with God that this testimony is true or whatever. What? When? That's a claim. Where's the evidence to support that claim? And supposing we did make an agreement, that doesn't make it true. I can make an agreement with anybody who's made a claim. That doesn't make the claim true.
Right, that he is our Lord.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because the Quran says that.
No, okay. I'm not certain that I didn't make an agreement with Allah, but I haven't got any good reason to believe that I did. That's the way to put it.
Because why? Why do you think you didn't?
Because I don't
The
believe I
Quran-
have a soul.
Yeah. The
Sorry?
Quran also says that sperm comes from your spine. So, like, yeah,
No,
it
it
says a
doesn't.
lot of things.
No, it doesn't. It says water. It says fluid. But anyway, can you answer my question, please, first, and then we'll get to
I
that.
can tell you that there is nothing in semen that comes from your spine.
We can talk about that, but what I'm saying is, can you answer my question first, please?
Well, he did. He did answer about this supposed agreement, and he said that he's got no good reason to believe that that's actually true.
Sure.
How do you know that didn't happen?
Yeah, again, he's switching the burden of proof, and he should say, we don't know that it didn't happen, but we've got no good reason to believe that it did happen. It's just a claim that this supposed agreement happened, and you've got to prove your claim.
That someone didn't split the moon in half? How do I know that didn't happen?
No.
Okay, right. I'm going to have to do this in 2 videos because I'm at the 15-minute mark or more. Yeah, on the thing with sperm coming from, what was it he said in the Quran, it's claimed that sperm came from the spine. This Bob character is going to go on to say that, oh, you know, the Quran is infallible. It got all the science right and everything. No, that's absolute nonsense. I've got a web page which lists all the mistakes in the Quran. They didn't believe in a heliocentric universe. They believed that, you know, that they believe that the sun went around the earth and all that nonsense. And there's so many mistakes in the Quran. It's absolutely unbelievable. And really, I would say that the hosts on the line have got to have a list of these ready for these Muslims calling in so that they can fire them off one at a time and say, right, what about this? Here's the surah. What about that? What about that? What about that? You're saying that the Quran is infallible, hasn't made any mistakes? Not true. There's a ton of mistakes. You've been lied to. Okay. I'm going to make another video covering Bob's call because there's quite a long way to go. Thanks for watching.